So again, to recap on the short run Phillips curve, anytime we're moving along the curve, then that's a shift in aggregate demand. But the shift in aggregate demand goes in the opposite direction, right? Now you can see that when we have a knock at the door. So anyway, if this is our SRAS curve, right? So here's aggregate supply. As the videos mentioned before, when there's a shift of the short run Phillips curve, it happens as a result of a shift of the AS curve. Okay. And again, they're mirror images, which means they go in opposite directions, right? So if you see a rightward shift of the short run Phillips curve, which essentially that means, we're having, as we go this way, higher inflation and more unemployment that is associated with, right? Like, this is AD, that's associated with a leftward shift or aggregate supply. But if you see, for example, a shift of the curve going this way, right? So if you see the curve shifting to the left, that would be more like AS moving to the right, because you can see that when this happens, GDP goes up, and that means unemployment goes down and prices go down. So we like it when things move right on the ADAS curve. We like it when things go left on the Phillips curve. Now, that brings us back to some of your questions and whatnot. So, you're going to be having some questions asked. And we're going to start off with just a regular ADAS curve. They'll give you a policy shift, and you'll sort of do that, which you know how to do. And then you'll start plotting these things on a supply curve. Now, one thing that happens is not only do we have a long run aggregate supply curve, we also have a long run Phillips curve. And this is associated essentially with, again, the ADAS curve. Another reason I don't know why we have a Phillips curve, but we do, right? So here is aggregate supply, all right? And let's say here is LRAS, right? So here's LRAS, and you know what it is. So if we end up having, let's say, expansionary fiscal policy, right now, here's where we are, right? This is we'll say we're sort of in stasis here at point A. Well, let's say that we have expansionary fiscal policy. So that moves AD this way, right? So as you know, a rightward shift of AD moves us to the left on the Phillips curve, right? So we'll call this sort of point B. Well, you can see that, right? We have less unemployment, but we have higher prices than we had before, which makes sense, right? We have less unemployment going this way, but we have higher prices going this way. But we also know that in the short run, this is short run. We know that since we're in an inflationary state, that there's upward pressure on wages, and wages are an input cost. So eventually SRAS will shift this way, and we'll have another AS curve. That means if we shift left with the AS curve, we shift, you got it, right on the Phillips curve. So as you can see, we're sort of back where we were, right? So you can see again, inflation goes up, but we're back to where we were when it came to output and unemployment. Same thing right here. We'll call this point C. We're back where we were when it came to unemployment because the LRPC curve, the long run Phillips curve, is the same thing as the LRAS curve. So you can see the only difference is, just like on the ADAS curve here, that the only change in the long run is prices go up. Okay. So essentially the Phillips curve is a mirror image of the ADAS curve, right? The only difference is we go along the curves when AD shifts, and we literally have a new curve when the Phillips curve changes. Okay. So this should now let you do some of these activities where they're going to give you some examples of what's going to happen in the short run, long run. You move some of these things, you'll sort of see, wage rates change, price levels change, what ends up happening. And then as a result, what's going to happen on the Phillips curve. So you can combine the two things on the Phillips curve, short run and long run, that is the same thing as short run and long run on AD. So this is sort of how you're doing this here. And then obviously the two videos, mine and that bozo ACDC economics. I hope you don't like him better than me, that you can watch that. And, I'll start taking more questions as we go on.